Hello and welcome back to the Nash Metal Production channel here at YouTube. And welcome to another currently listening to. This of course is again, just stuff I was listening to for the past couple of days or several days or at least a week, so on. And we see that, just getting the microphone there situated. Alright. Just about 10 CDs. Let me see if I can just flip through these for a bit. Let me kind of start off with this one real quick before I go into any more. I hadn't listened to this sound since I got this one, and that's of course this would be left over from my my thrash kick or so. But this is 13 from Megadeth. Is that Let's see if I can, there we go. God, glare is bad all of a sudden. God, it's just bad right now. Let's see about that. Let me see about this. There we go. Yeah, this is probably better. So yeah, 13 from Megadeth. I hadn't got this, or listened to this since, was it 2013, 14, it's been that long. When I first got it, I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was nearly as great as some of the stuff that Megadeth has put out in the past, or close to even like Endgame or United Abominations, though it was definitely better than Super Collider, in my opinion, but I just didn't think it was nearly that great of an album. However, upon re-listening to this many years later, you know what? I'm starting to really like it. It's definitely by far better than Super Collider. I don't know if it's as good or better than Endgame or United Abominations or even Dystopia, but it's definitely a solid album. I think, if you ask me, I think the sound definitely sounds more like a leftover from the 1990s, and that's for sure. And I know some of these songs were written back in the 90s, especially songs like New World Order and Millennium of the Blind were definitely songs that definitely were recorded, or originally were like written or recorded back in the 90s. And I know that New World Order was actually originally on, the Duke Nukem soundtrack, I think, if I'm correct, back like 1999, 2000. But and the song for Sudden Death was actually originally recorded for the Guitar Hero, Warriors of Rock video game, which means it was probably a leftover from Endgame. Again, there is just, but overall, there's just definitely some good songs on here. I would say this definitely sounds like a 90s album. 90s era Megadeth. Mostly, it sounds like something that could have easily come either in between or after Euthanasia. That's where I kind of feel with this one, or like in between Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia. It just has that kind of sound to it. As far as though this could have been released after Euthanasia, and should have probably been released in, let's say, Cryptic Writings, or for that matter, Risk. But still, it's a solid album. I'm actually really kind of getting around, or wrapping my head around this album. It's definitely a solid Megadeth album. Not as thrashy, but it definitely has some hooks here and there. So, 13 from Megadeth. Alright. So, let's just get into it. You know, let me talk about some of the new wave of British heavy metal ones I was listening to. Yeah, I was kind of threw out some British metal classics, for sure. There we go. Let's just start off with the most obvious. First, Iron Maiden. Stone Cold classic. This is just a great album. Also, I felt like pulling this song out again, of course, thanks to Cloudy Melder, who of course did a video on him talking about the various different pressings of the first Iron Maiden LP, of course, with him obtaining an original, and of course even going into the differences between as far as the song lengths or so on, like especially on the topic of Phantom of the Opera, which of course I went and commented that since this is actually the 2018 or 2018 reissue, which uses the 2015 remasters that were used for the iTunes releases of this. They went and it goes back again. It goes back to the original UK track listing on this CD, but it also goes by the original UK masters, which reinstates the song Phantom of the Opera. I mean, not the, but the part at the end of Phantom of the Opera. That little, it's called a coda. That little bit that Paul Di'Anno says, "Would look at you, back at you there," so with that vocal effect, that's been reinstated on here because it was left off, or off the 98 remasters, which those 98 remasters I think pretty much just went by the US masters and not the original masters. So they pretty much goes back to the original master tapes for these. So all in all, definitely very interesting. Definitely made me felt like pulling this one out again. I just recently got this year, actually, back in April. Actually on Record Store Day. I had popped into Rasputin on Record Store Day, and they had a copy of the first Iron Maiden, which was definitely one of the albums at that time that was missing from my collection. So I was definitely happy to pretty much, let's say, fill in that sort of 80s era Iron Maiden studio album gap. So I pretty much have this up to about Seventh Son, of course, including No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark. So pretty much most of that pre-post Dickinson era stuff. Alright, so again, first Iron Maiden. Of course, on that same day, I also ended up finding one of my other all-time favorite new wave of British heavy metal albums. That, of course, is Bloodsports from Avenger. This, of course, is the Dissonance Records or Productions reissue from last year as well. This is one of my all-time favorite new wave or British heavy metal albums. Again, if you're not really familiar with Avenger, their sound is very similar to Raven. They were on the same label, which was Neat Records. Pretty much, to me, Avenger is pretty much somewhere between Raven and Autumncraft. They just have that kind of sound to them. Just a great band. There really isn't a bad release from Avenger. Even the 7-inch, Too Wild to Tame, is also good. And even the song Hot and Heavy Express, that was on that. What was it? No Overdubs, whatever split that had also bands like, was it Black Rose, or I'm drawing a blank with one of the other bands on that, Alien, I guess. But they had that track, was it Hot and Heavy Express on there, which was when Brian Ross was in the band before leaving Avenger to go join Satan, which in a way also was kind of reversed for Satan, because Ian Swift was singing for Saint at the time. But when when it came to having Brian Ross joining Satan, they went and swapped the singers. So Ian left Satan to join Avengers, so it was a whole fucking swap. Still, if they ask me, I actually kind of, I guess they really began to really distinct. I think Ian Swift is a pretty underrated new wave or British heavy metal singer. Actually, I think he just has a unique voice. Of course, it's not completely different from what you got from a new wave or British heavy metal bands, but that's just kind of the thing I get with Avenger, just that classic sound. So, just great stuff all around. I definitely need to get Killer Elite, add that to it, and of course also add the Too Wild to Tame single also into the collection. So I already got is also the Slaughter Never Stops original pressing. which was the 2014 comeback album. So I'm gonna stop talking about this. One of my all-time favorite new wave British heavy metal albums, Bloodsport from Avenger. Other favorite of mine, that's of course is Loose and Lethal from Savage. Just again, I would pretty much I put this right next to like Bloodsport from Avenger. It's just classic stuff. Of course, if it wasn't for bands like Avenger or Savage or Iron Maiden or those kind of bands, we wouldn't have like Metallica or Megadeth or those kind of thrash metal bands. We wouldn't have that. So just great stuff. Of course, Metallica covered both Let It Loose, and even during live shows, they also covered the song, Dirty Money, after hearing the songs on that Scene of the Crime comp. So, there we go. It was some people from Savage. Of course, there we go to another new wave of British metal band. Though definitely an album. Good album though. I actually like it. Of course, Night of the Blade from Tokyo Blade. This was I acquired this thanks to, of course, Final Transmission last year. Great album. Was it 2017? It was last year. So, good album. I don't know if I can say if I like it as much. I like it. I definitely like this album a lot. I definitely love the EP and single tracks that were added at the end, like Fever, Attack, Madame Guillotine, and Breakout. Of course, songs like Night of the Blade, which I actually used for my Metal-tober intro last year. And of course, Unleash the Beast, Warrior of the Rising Sun. Even the song Love Struck I actually kind of dig. But overall, this is definitely, I wouldn't say it's nearly as good as the first album, which I own. But it's good overall. It definitely has sort of that mid-80s British heavy metal sound that you kind of were getting at the time. I was either on Ebony Records or so. It's very close to that kind of sound. I dig it. Like bands like Blade Runner and so on. But anyway, it's definitely not nearly up to par with like Savage's Loose and Lethal or Avengers Bloodsports, or even the very first Iron Maiden album for that matter. But it's definitely a solid album nonetheless. Cool cover art though. Again, just who doesn't love that kind of cover with the fucking samurai literally, cutting through that flag or whatever. It's like that's just a pretty cool cover. I actually once came across the Combat Records pressing of this many years ago, but I never picked it up. Anyways, still, great album nonetheless. Alright, so that's about there. Let me just get in to throw this one in for old times, because again, another one I got around the time I got was Avengers Bloodsports and the first Iron Maiden. And one of my favorite American metal albums, that of course is the album from Black Death. Just a great fucking album. I can do a whole entire review on this album, which is probably would be best, because I really get to say all I want really about this one instead of just trying to hinder up the whole entire video. Just talk about how fucking good this album is. I had listened to this one many years ago. Downloaded it because of it. It was very much out of print by the time when I was getting into really starting to get into this underground metal stuff. So. And of course, bootlegs were definitely floating around. Of course, original pressings would cost pretty much an arm and a leg. But thank God for Hell's Headbangers Records for actually doing a official reissue and putting it back in print. Because I think albums like this should just stay in print. This is that damn good. Just solid shit. Again, pretty much one of the first all-black heavy metal bands. Just great stuff. I could definitely go into a brief. To me, I think Black Death definitely has a heavy 70s influence you could definitely can hear a lot of that early Judas Priest sound, that early, at times maybe early Scorpions to an extent, or UFO, especially if you listen to the song, what was this? The Scream of the Iron Messiah, if I'm... I think it is. I think it's Scream of the Iron Messiah, which has that kind of UFO feel to it, definitely like the song Let It Roll. It has that kind of feel to it, whereas Streetwalker sounds like definitely early Judas Priest, definitely sound like something off of Sin After Sin, which the song that comes to mind is Starbreaker. Streetwalker just reminds me a lot of, has that build that Starbreaker has. Just great stuff. Of course, you can hear a little bit early, almost British metals influence from like Iron Maiden, the Diano era though, and some of that kind of stuff. But there's just plenty of good shit on this album. There's just great work. And definitely I could say this is probably the Black Merciful Fate, I guess you can say, because both these two bands have a similar style and sound. Both bands definitely take that 70s, early heavy 70s kind of sound and stuff, and really kind of infuse it with a more almost dark and sinister kind of heavy metal sound and stuff. But these guys, I think, instead, since Merciful Fate kind of more like a Uriah Heep influence, these guys almost seem to take more of a almost garage rock or punky kind of influence. Mostly of bands like MC5 or the Stooges, or the early Amboy Duke shit. Kind of like that, I kind of take it and infuse it with a more straight up, almost sinister heavy metal sound, and just infuse it in their way. And that's the kind of way I take it with this. So great album, underrated. See, I already hindered the whole entire video because of that. That's just damn how much good the sound is. It's just that damn good. So, very first Black Death. So let me see if I can just kind of zip through these. I decided to pull out a bit of some of the Shrapnel era metal stuff. I actually got on that kind of kick. So first up, classic heavy metal Maniac from Exciter. I don't need to say anything more. It's just a classic Canadian speed metal record. Great shit. Another one I also am definitely quite a fan of, and it's still the only album I own. I know since then they've been releasing a few more albums, but this is Trauma with Scratch and Scream. Trauma is probably best known for being the band that Cliff Burton came from before joining Metallica. Great album, good stuff, but the best shit for me really is the bonus stuff, which is actually recordings with Cliff Burton. And these three songs, Such a Shame, We're Going Off, and Woman Be Gone should have been released as a EP or so. Just good stuff. And high quality recordings. Just good shit. So again, if you're into Trauma and want to own this on CD, it's really cheap. It's fucking cheap. I got this when it was this reissue when it was new. But if you want to, especially if you want to check out the 3 tracks, you probably could find them on YouTube. I think they got these remastered versions of the Cliff Burton era Trauma stuff on YouTube. But still, it'd be nice if there would be a compilation Trauma release that compiles everything at least Cliff Burton did with Trauma, because they recorded a few more shit with him. So it'd be nice to actually get some of that stuff. So Scratch and Scream from Trauma. Another one I'm also definitely a fan of, that's of course is Digital Dictator from Vicious Rumors. I would say this one and the self-titled album that came after this are by far my favorite stuff from Vicious Rumors. It's great stuff. Even the recent stuff is also not bad. So, Digital Dictator from Vicious Rumors. And of course, another album that I know I talked about, was it Under the Spell, but No Escape from Hex. Good album. Again, I would say it's not nearly as my favorite as like Under the Spell or Wrath of the Reaper, but it's still good. Still quality American metal, but I wouldn't say it's nearly on the same quality as like as some of the other Shrapnel releases I talked about, like either Scratch and Scream or heavy metal Maniac, or even to some extent maybe digital Dictator, but it's still good. I still like it a lot. So, No Escape from Hex. So with that, it definitely was a pretty long video, but I'm gonna own up for that. So with that, hope y'all enjoyed. Definitely stay tuned until next week so I can really give you guys some quality content. Because again, you should all know, since I already mentioned what was it, Metaltober? I already mentioned it. That's me next month. So a lot of content coming. So until then, hope you all enjoyed. Take care.